a brief update on Nigel, reform, some home truths about politics, and then a much bigger thought that I think is actually the interesting one. Number one, Nigel and reform. Looks like he might sack the chairman, Zia Yousef. I think this is a very sensible strategy because something has to be done to draw a line under the weeks of just kind of self-harm that's gone on while all the boys have been willy-waving. At this point, reform have, a slash across their necks and they are gushing blood, and they will kind of bleed out very soon if they don't do something dramatic straight away. And that should have been done a week ago. But if you get rid of the chairman, get the ship in order, you can at least start to move forward in the right direction. Okay, next thing, the truth about politics. We all would love it if we had politicians that were like us and were out there to do the right thing. That isn't politics. Politics is vile. It's disgusting. It's only played by people who have the thickest skin, who are prepared to do despicable acts, and who are prepared to hold silence at things they know they should speak about because of some strategy for getting power. It's about getting power. It's about taking power. And I don't care how someone presents. Ultimately, that is always the truth. You have to choose your least worst option. It's why I say I would never get involved in politics, because I'm an arsehole, but I'm not that big an arsehole. So you can say, oh, I don't like Trump. Oh, do you prefer Kamala? Oh, I can't stand Nigel. Oh, would you prefer Keir Starmer? And also, as much as I 100% disagree with Nigel when he does his snake moves, you see what happens with AFD. AFD looking great, looking good for the win. Elon backing AFD. And of course, they don't get enough votes because people kind of, oh, I don't want to be seen to be voting for the AFD. That's why Nigel has to snake his way into the middle ground. It's vile, it's tactical, but that's politics. Politics just is a disgusting thing. And the problem is, if you don't choose your monster, you get a worse one. So the world was told Assad is a monster, Assad's a monster. Yes, but you could still be a Christian in Syria when Assad was there. There was a church in the middle of Syria. And now it's been taken over by Islamist terrorists who are exterminating Christians. So my question to you is, which monster do you choose, Assad or this new lot? So choose your monsters. And finally, on this point, you are being deceived by the algorithm. As we speak, right now, doing this even, but certainly on Twitter, you're being deceived by the algorithm. The algorithm tells you. So if you're pro Rupert Lowe, you've seen how he's been treated and you are outraged by the whole thing, and you think Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib could start a new party and that will be great and that will be pure and good and honest. That's not true, because that's not how politics works. And you are being surrounded by an algorithm full of people who think like that, who believe like that, showing you Ben to be a good guy, showing you Rupert to be a good guy. Oh, they could start their own party. This is what we need. And much of that might be true, but that's the algorithm surrounding you with things you want to hear. It's like me being surrounded by you lovely guys and thinking, oh gosh, the world's so good. Everyone's so blooming nice to me now. But then I go out to Shoreditch to do a gig and, the local councillor blackmails the venue to say we're going to pull your licence if you give Katie a stage. You realise that what you're surrounded by isn't necessarily the reality. So all I'll say is you're being deceived by the algorithm. A Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe party could never work because it just splits the vote. It makes no sense, even though in your heart it seems like the right thing. Okay, this is a much bigger point now. Democracy. The idea is that you exchange some of your God-given freedoms, or as British people might call them, your natural liberty, the liberty that you were born with. You exchange them, some of them, for civil liberty. So you give up some of your natural liberty in exchange, according to Rousseau, for your civil liberties, right? So the idea that if you have something, you can keep it. If you want to stay alive, you can. That's civil liberties. So you give up some of your natural freedoms in order that you can live and own property and do well and try and make a bit of money for yourself and keep it and be safe and your family be safe, right? That was the idea. And that's how democracy was set up. What's happened now is that people, the system of voting, if we think about the UK, the system of voting, which is deeply flawed, and is hugely, it's so deeply fraudulent to be laughable. People buying votes for 20 quid. I've seen it with my own eyes in Peterborough. So you're giving up liberties in order for civil liberties. But what's happened in the UK over the last 20 years, which I started to call out 20 years ago, but I had to be butchered for saying it then, is you're giving up your natural freedoms for civil liberties that you don't really, like, if you look at civil society in the UK right now, it isn't civil, it's vile. You're giving up your liberties for something you don't agree with. You don't agree with illegals having hotel rooms and being paid to be here. You don't agree with the way things are being spent. You don't agree with where your taxpayers' cash is going. This kind of civil liberty that you were giving up your freedom for doesn't make sense anymore. You're being treated terribly for civil liberty that doesn't look like any kind of liberty that you asked for. And not only that, it's not just a few of your natural freedoms that are being taken, it's bloody well all of them. Your freedoms have disappeared in the UK. You have fewer freedoms in the UK now, I would argue, than any point in history. You're told how you can drive, what you can drive, where you can drive, how you heat your home, who can come into your home, who can tell you where you can go, who you can say, what you can say on here, what you think. These basic freedoms that you were supposed to give up have now been, all of your freedoms are being given up for a society that you don't want to be part of anymore. And that's actually the question that no one's talking about. It's not really about which party you're going to vote for, what's Nigel going to do next. It's about how do you get away from a system that's taken all of your freedoms and giving you back nothing in return. And that's what I see happening, because I'm, 5-10 years down the line ahead of where everyone's catching up to, is this movement to find a place where you can just live your life, be as free as you can possibly be, and you want the people around you to be okay, and you want to do your bit to try and help them. And that's why we're seeing so many communities springing up, like Hope Sussex, or like the off-gridders in America, or people looking to move to Panama or South America, or find a place where they can live their life and contribute to their neighbour's life or their little, friends around them, but they want no part of what this lie that is now democracy, that we're supposed to believe in the UK, what it's come to mean. And that's actually a much deeper, bigger philosophical question, but that's what's in the hearts, I think, of so many British people who feel like, what is it? I need to find a way of making this make sense. I can't. It's actually a really fundamental thing about getting rid of everything you own, getting rid of all your stuff, packing your bag and getting out. And that's the real wrestle, because that's a real challenge for a patriot as well, because if you believe in your country, you stay and fight for it. But under the current system, you're giving up way too much and you cannot get those freedoms back as things currently stand. Ooh, big thoughts. Mostly, get rid of that bloody chairman. Clearly, Rupert deserves an apology, but there's no way back for those two. You have to choose the least worst option. You have to choose your monsters. And there is a reason you're feeling the way you feel. It's because the setup of democracy that said, give up a little bit of this to get a lot of that, is no longer true. But don't worry, because there's still hope. I promise you. And I'll see you on the road.